And call this meeting to order. This is the September 23rd, 2020 regular meeting of the Schertz Planning and Zoning Commission. Item number 1 is called to order. Item number 2, seat alternate to active required. Mr. Odom is joining us this evening. Item number 3, hearing of residents. This time is set aside for any person who wishes to address the Planning and Zoning Commission, so on and so on. We'll start out with Ms. Maggie Titterton. I'm curious to find out why you're here tonight.
Maybe I just wanted to come and see y'all. Good evening. Basically, I was coming in support of item 5A. One of our newest members, Ken McCarty, he's the developer, MM3009 LLC, and this has to do with the Kellum Medical Building, and just so excited to see that this could be going forward again. And just want to really commend Emily and Mr. James. I thought he would be here tonight. There was some matters about this that needed to be expeditiously produced, and once the paperwork was put through by Ken and his team for this development to go forward again, I just wanted to publicly thank and acknowledge Emily and Brian and all those that had to work really hard and really quick to get this ready so that it could be here for you all on Wednesday. But just wanted to voice my support and my excitement that this looks like it's finally going to get started. Hopefully. Thank you. All
right, you're welcome. Thank you. Emily, anybody, any emails or? No. Okay. So, moving right along, item 4, the consent agenda. We have one item. Item 4A, minutes from the September 9th, 2020 regular meeting. Commissioners, do we need to pull that for any discussion? If not, Chair will entertain a motion.
Chairman, I motion that we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, the second was from who? Ricky? Okay. Yeah, I finally figured out that's the issue. I'm not hearing the people, I'm hearing the speakers, and yeah, it throws things off. All right, so we have a motion to approve the consent agenda from Commissioner Ray, a second from Commissioner Haynes. No discussion on the consent agenda. Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. All right, 6 ayes, no nays. Motion passes. Item 5, items for individual consideration. 5A. PC 2020-026, consider and act upon a request for approval of a replat of Lot 1, Block 1 of the Calstone subdivision and the adjacent unplanted property. The property consists of approximately 5 acres of land and is located at 3581 FM 3009 and 3701 FM 3009, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas. Emily.
Good evening, Commissioners. Emily Delgado, Senior Planner. So outlined here in green is the subject property, all 5.405 acres as stated. So just to get your bearings, this is 3009 and then Green Valley Road, and then those are the properties. So this is a picture of the overall plat, but I wanted to zoom in so you could see the two lots a little more clear. So this is the existing Lot 1, Block 1 of the Calstone subdivision. You can see it here, and then the adjacent unplatted land. So the purpose of this replat is to take this Lot 1, Block 1 and combine that with the adjacent unplatted and create this Lot 3, which is 1.635 acres, and Lot 4, Block 1, 3.770 acres. This may look familiar to you. Back in 2018, this replat was approved. Following that, 2 site plans, a site plan for each lot, were then approved as well. Since then, per the UDC, they have a 2-year expiration. If they haven't been recorded, that plat does expire. So at this point, the plat has expired, but they want to start that project back up. So the replat you're seeing tonight for approval is exactly the same as what was approved back in 2018. There's been no changes, no modifications. It's the exact same document. Just some reminders from then and looking at the plat right now. So since this is on TxDOT right-of-way with 3009, they are eligible for one access point that is shared between the two of them. And then there's a 25-foot ingress-egress easement, basically a shared access easement. So Lot 4, Block 1 has an access onto 3009, and then that 25-foot is shared down to Lot 3, which is how Lot 3 has access to TxDOT's 3009. Other than that, like I said, it is the exact same document that was previously approved. Staff did do another full review on this, found that it still meets all of our requirements, and is making a recommendation of approval.
All right, thank you. Commissioners?
Emily, I have a question. On the egress, is there a reason why they went to 3009 instead of coming down to Green Valley where the light is?
So this is actually where TxDOT specified that they would be happy with the alignment there, essentially. So when TxDOT reviewed the plat, they also reviewed where that ingress-egress would be, where that driveway would be. Same thing with the site plans that coincide with these two lots. TxDOT agreed that that's where the drive should be.
Okay, I'm not a specialist, but
So,
dump it out.
yeah, so I think part of it may be, so there is still a lot that is part of the Calstone subdivision. So the original Calstone subdivision was Lot 1 and Lot 2. So you can see the Lot 1 right here, right, that's incorporated into this. And then Lot 2 has this kind of finger tract, if you will, to 3009. So I think that was maybe part of it. You know, it would be very close to have a drive on Lot 3, and this person still needs to have access to their residential lot. You know, yeah.
Anyone else?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Was it, at any time, was there a shared access talked about with the Walgreens property?
I believe since this was already, you know, the site's already developed, I think there was communication and it just didn't come to fruition. Honestly, I cannot fully remember though, Mr. Bro, I'm gonna be honest.
Yes, there was years ago, and it has been a while. It probably predates you. Because this is not the first time they've tried to develop this piece of property. There was somebody many years ago. There are some issues. Number one is the original plat of the Walgreens subdivision didn't require cross-lot access, so the property owners were in opposition to requiring, and then there's quite a bit of, there's a significant grade difference between, as you come up out of Walgreens into this property, and so there were some, even the fire department had some issues with trying to put a driveway to connect those properties. But it was, at one time, it was looked at.
But we didn't look at it this time.
So we looked at it with the original 2018 plat. So one of the kind of the conditions was to bring this forward, kind of an expedited process, was it had to be exactly the same. So that's why, you know, I mentioned it multiple times. The plat you're looking at tonight is exactly the same as what we reviewed and approved back in 2018. So in 2018, we did do a full review of requiring that cross-access.
Of requiring it or not requiring it? If we
Not
require,
requiring it if you want to. We did the review of the cross-access.
yeah, because I don't remember the exact process from 2018 on what we did or not. It just seems that anything along 3009, if it would be feasible to have cross-access to all the lots on there, but
To Mr. Outlaw's point, I mean, if there's not a cross-lot access onto the Walgreens subdivision, theoretically, traffic from this lot wouldn't have the right to enter the Walgreens property and use their entrance. Which is why, you know, looking at this, the Lot 3, you know, they have this ingress egress easement forever and always. They'll have the right to use and cross Lot 4 to that entrance.
Again, I think the issue was the developer wanted to comply and provide cross-access, but there was no legal requirement for the current owner of the Walgreens subdivision to provide that access, and they basically said no. Now, back then, we were talking about fuel trucks, but again, I think it goes back to history because we didn't plat it with a cross lot. We can't require it now. But that does bring up a question of the future with, are we making any provision on Lot 3 to cross-access, what would it be, Lot 2?
The Lot 2 down here. So since it's used as residential, and I believe it's still residentially zoned, we don't have a requirement for commercial to cross-access to a residential, you know,
Okay, so we're
theoretically,
tying, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but we're tying our hands again, okay? It just, this is planning and zoning, okay? And I don't see a whole lot of planning going on when we run up against things like this. I understand that's a residential property, okay? And if the rules don't require the cross line, I mean, it's obvious. Well, I don't know, I say it's obvious, but it may not be. That, I mean, that may stay a single-family dwelling for the next 50 years, okay? But again, part of the planning process is we should be looking to the future, not stuck in today. And so if maybe we need to change our rules, maybe we should take a look at that, okay?
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I'd say part of that kind of goes into, you know, it's not necessarily specifically for this plat, but kind of the requirements between commercial and residential. Yeah, we're sacrificing not having that cross-access easement, and for the 8-foot masonry wall and the 20-foot landscape buffer is going to be there.
And it's, again, here's an opportunity as part of the future planning to do something, you know, to try to clean traffic up here at this intersection, and we're just totally, you know, we're just kicking that can down the road.
Well, that's basically why I asked my question. Why haven't we even talked about it? We haven't mentioned it. If I heard what you said, it wasn't even brought up. And I think the place where the residence is, it's all neighborhood services. And it says in the notes here that the residence is going to be demolished. It's being used as single family. So I think it's all neighborhood services. But
Not the existing Lot 2, that's separately owned, still used as a residential.
Yeah, so maybe to your point, and I think, again, good conversation, and again, I think this is a policy question in terms of whichever direction the commission wants to go. So certainly the commission can require cross-access to Lot 2, Block 3, the Walgreens site. You can require cross-access to the residentially zoned lot. Again, that would mean then the developer would have to build those with the project. Obviously, it would mean they wouldn't build a screening wall, and so you'd have this opening for a drive into the residential home. But yeah, you're right, you can certainly do that, and I think it's a good conversation because, yeah, what you want to balance is it's not always going to be like this. The Walgreens site could come in and redevelop, another site could come in and redevelop. We're going, if only on this Calstone plat we had required that to be provided and be built, we'd sort of save ourselves. So on the one hand, that's a good thing to do because you provide for that. Understand that that does not come without a cost, and that's a cost to the developer to eating up usable land. It's a cost to the developer to having to build that. It's a cost to the developer because if we do have topography issues, he's got to make it work for the appropriate slopes and things like that. If it means trees need to come out, then because you've required that, he has to pay additional tree mitigation. And so, again, I think what staff tries to do is find that balance, because we've often lamented those cases where we don't have cross-access, wish we would have it. The flip side is, though, is what we try not to do, this probably comes somewhere in between, is require cross-access in every conceivable location. It's a bit of the challenge we have with acquiring easements. Cross-access is one of those is, well, in the future, we could need a line here. You may, but we may not, and then now we've eaten up 20, 25 feet, 16 feet of property that the developer can't use and can't develop. And so I think the conversation is really good. I think, as I recall, when we came back on this one before, because of a number of factors, particularly including concerns from the residents down the way, there was concern of kind of too much cross-access heading their direction that would imply, yeah, this is this commercial creep, though to some degree it is commercial kind of creeping in. And then it was really a question of to what degree we thought the Walgreens would come in, to what degree we'd get pushback from that residential neighborhood to have more traffic come in. As this commission is keenly aware, whenever we have commercials start developing adjacent to a collector that is perceived of as into a residence, that creates issues for us. And so it's a bit of a balancing act on that. How much traffic do we really want to funnel through that direction versus out on the road? So I think, again, it's good conversation. Don't disagree with the nature of it. I think staff came down on this one to say, when we had looked at it before, not sure it makes sense to require it, given that it's not without an opportunity cost. But certainly the commission can choose to do that.
No.
Let's look at what all these are proposed to be medical offices.
That's right.
So I go to the doctor and I go to lot 3 and there's a building and there's a doctor and I go in there and I get a prescription. Mm-hmm. And I want to go to Walgreens to get it filled. How do I get there? I gotta risk my life and cross traffic on 3009 and pull out and go a few feet and risk my life again as I make a left turn into the Walgreens parking lot. It would stand to reason if there's nothing that's blocking this from being cross-access or having cross-access, why don't we even look at it?
Sure, and so that's perfectly valid. So you could, as a condition of approval, require cross-access from Lot 4 to the adjacent Lot 2. And then when this gets built and you go to the doctor and you have to go get a prescription, you will take your life into your own hands as you pull out on 3009 to go around and get to Walgreens. Because again, it will not connect to anything because there is not cross-access on that lot. And again, as Mr. Outlaw recalls, I recall there has been some history in this area and some of these properties in terms of why things are the way they are and resident concerns and things like that.
I mean,
so you can certainly require that. I mean, that's perfect.
Well, from the developer, if the developer's here, is there going to be a big building right there that would be in the way of a cross-access driveway to the Walgreens lot? Or is that going to be an open parking lot?
Well,
if it's going to be an open parking lot, we should look at it, I think.
Sure, you certainly can. And again, the cost of that is less, because the cost of that is only given 3 parking spaces, perhaps more, to provide that cross-access. So again, you could certainly do that. Again, I just want to be clear as we start saying, oh, it's easy, it is what it is. It does come with a cost. And so again, not saying staff is all-knowing and always correct. We try to find this balance with cross-access, and you've certainly heard us up here demand it needs to have cross-access. You've certainly heard us up here before going, oh, we don't think cross-access appropriate. This one we came down on because of some of those history and because of kind of going through it. Don't think it's necessarily needed at this point, you know, kind of going forward.
I hear you that it's increased cost. I know that.
Yeah.
I know it's a challenging project because of all the elevation changes and all the rock and everything else in this whole project. But I plan on living here for the next 20 or 30 years.
Sure.
I have to live with this. The developer bills and wipes his hands and washes his hands in the sink and he's gone to the next project. I have to live here for the next 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
I have to live with this. So that's why I'm asking, why don't we at least from a, like the chairman said, from a planning standpoint, did we look at the next 10 or 15 or 20 years and say, well, it's probably good to put a cross-access driveway here, but it's going to cost too much, maybe not.
Sure, and maybe let me,
according to the planner, we didn't even look at it.
well, let me say this.
We didn't discuss it.
We looked at it last time. We did not revisit it this time because we had looked at it 2 years ago and it expired 6 months ago. And certainly, you're right, this is another application coming back. You have the ability to require this on this application. That certainly all is right. And again, as I said, valid reasons to do it. And so again, maybe looking at the aerial will help us sort of understand where that cross-X is and what those situations are as we go forward.
It looks like from the map I'm looking at that the parking lot in front of Dutch Boy is prepared for a cross-access easement. They've cut a little piece out over there, so they're prepared for it.
Yeah, they didn't provide it, and so I'm not sure, again, that they sort of prepared for it. So you're right, we could require cross-access through the parking lot here. Now, ideally, just to be clear, before we kind of willy-nilly say you need a cross-access, I assume the commission would say you need to require the cross-access to align with the drive in front of one of the parking rows. You don't have to, but theory, if you're trying to get there, you would require it. So it then imposes a specific location without flexibility on the developer. And you're right, what that would do is then would allow folks from this development come cross the main drive into the project, come down here, and exit out up here. Yeah, that would be what it would get you. And so again, if this site came in to develop and needed to replat, we could require that as part of them. I don't think they're voluntarily going to give it because I don't think they want all that traffic from the medical coming through theirs, because again, it wasn't designed on the front end to accommodate. And again, I think as Commissioner Atwell said, there's history on that and not a perfect world. But yeah, you certainly can.
Well, I appreciate the comments, Mr. James, and
Sure.
part of it is just frustration with the reality of what we deal with. You know, in a perfect world, this property would all be owned by the same person, would all be developed by the same person. But in reality, what we're dealing with is history where, you know, at one time this was probably all residential. And we only, you know, it's kind of a policy that we don't proactively, so unless somebody comes in and asks to rezone something, we don't. So again,
Yeah.
thank you, and I you know, as much as I wish sometimes that, you know, we, for instance, maybe we could have lined up a driveway with the traffic light at Green Valley Road. The reality is we've got that one little R1 access driveway that once again. If you don't mind, I would answer, Commissioner Platt was pointing out the UDC requirement for cross-lot access. And I'd just like to explain to him that, number one, when the Walgreens and this, the adjacent property there where the Caesar's little, and the little retail center there, when those were developed, I'm not sure that was a requirement. So that's what's missing today is there was no cross-lot access platted with those two properties. So that's problem number one, okay? And then I think if I remember what Emily was just saying, they're not requiring it southbound because the adjacent property is residential, not commercial, correct? Yes, so. Do you happen to know if this driveway will line up with the one that goes in across the way, that goes into that shopping center? It looks like it's pretty close. You know, but it's hard to tell.
So it's theoretically, I mean, it looks pretty close. But
That's what I'm saying. Okay, and while you're there, I have one question that really is, it's curiosity more than it has anything to do with this plat, but you see that row of properties along, what is that, Ashley Oak?
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at the zoning map, that's all zoned all the way back up to this, every one of those properties up to the subdivision is zoned neighborhood services. So why are there homes in there? So we changed the zoning after they built the houses, is that?
Most likely.
Most
Probably,
likely,
okay.
I don't know that.
Okay. Close enough, yeah. It's more of that, yeah. All right. So once again, this is exactly what we approved 2 years ago. Nothing's changed. I see the red, is that, did we have to send notices? Are we required? We don't send notices out on replats, do we?
So back in 2018, if it was, the Texas Local Government Code said that if it had been zoned residential in the previous 5 years, then you had to send mailers. Since then, the state laws changed where we do not have to send pre-notice in advance. But after this, we do have to send notice to the property owners of the original subdivision of what the outcome of the replat tonight is.
Okay. All right, commissioners, any more questions, further discussion? If not, the chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve PC 2020-026 as written and presented.
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Commissioner Haynes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Ray? That was you? Yep. Okay. Second from Commissioner Ray. Do we have any further discussion or questions? Call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 6 ayes, no nays. Motion passes. Item 6, requests and announcements. Request by commissioners to place items on a future planning and zoning agenda. Announcement by commissioners on city and community events attended or to be attended or continuing education events. Anybody have anything? All right, announcements by city staff.
So just as a reminder, this is just an announcement about the site plans that we've received since the last meeting, but no questions. If you have questions, please come see me after the meeting. So the first one, this is the site plan for the Calstone Lot 3, Block 1, 3581 FM 3009. It's for a proposed 12,000 square foot medical office. The sheet that I'm showing you right now is the site plan, so you can see the numerous trees that they will be planting and shrubs, including the screening to the residential property to the south. And then this is the Calstone Lot 4, Block 1, 3701, FM 3009. It's a 22,944 square foot medical office that you can see here. And that is the associated landscape plan. That's it.
Lot of detail there. All right, that's all you got? All right, there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Ryan, do you have time for a quick question?